Trump in the middle of a very rough week. The former president's legal jeopardy intensifying as a DA in Georgia is asking for a special grand jury to investigate Trump's efforts to overturn that state's election results, like when he asked officials to find votes.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
It is, of course, just one of the chapters in this attempted coup. Trump and his allies lied over and over again, claiming he won states that he didn't win. Allies pressured the Justice Department to investigate those lies. They urged state legislatures to overturn results in states that Biden actually won. He and others pressured states not to certify election results. Allies collected illegitimate Republican electors in at least 7 states.
He and others pressured then Vice President Mike Pence to overturn results on January 6. Conservative lawyers created actual strategy memos to overturn the election. They urged supporters to fight like hell and march to the Capitol, which preceded the siege. They promoted the lie of the Stop the Steal campaign. They delayed the formal transition process at the GSA. They even discussed having federal agents seize voting machines. And we have new reporting this morning about Trump campaign officials overseeing a plot to install fake electors in 7 states that Donald Trump lost. And the operation was spearheaded by Rudy Giuliani. I want to bring in CNN anchor and senior Washington correspondent Pamela Brown. Pamela, what have you learned here?
Well, John, it's just incredible to learn about more evidence, as you put it, of this plot to overturn the 2020 election. And that is the fact that Trump campaign officials, we've learned, along with Rudy Giuliani, who was really spearheading this effort, were intricately involved in putting forth fake electors. This was back in December of 2020. This is according to 3 sources, speaking to myself as well as my colleagues Marshall Cohen, Zach Cohen, and Dan Marica. And it was a key part of their plan in this alternate reality to pretend like Trump won the election. And the goal here was for the Vice President, Mike Pence at the time, to accept these fake Trump electors over the legitimate Biden electors on January 6th. We know that didn't happen. But leading up to that point, we've learned through these sources that there were multiple calls between Trump campaign officials and state officials, and they were really involved in the minutia, picking out rooms and state houses for these fake electors to meet on December 14th, finding supporters that would be the fake electors, sending in these fake certificates to the National Archives. I mean, they were really involved incrementally, step by step, in this whole plot to overturn the 2020 election. In fact, one of those fake electors boasted about how the Trump campaign led this operation. Take a listen to this audio that's a little difficult to make out.
We fought for investigations into every part of the election we could. He fought for a team of people to come and testify in front of the committee. We fought to see the electors. The Trump campaign asked us to do that, and under a lot of scrutiny for that today.
So there you heard that was one of the 16 fake electors there in Michigan, basically saying that, yeah, we were trying to fight to get, to replace Biden's electors, and this was all led by the Trump campaign. Now, I do want to point out, I spoke to a source close to the former vice president who said there was concern by Pence and his inner circle that this scenario could play out. They didn't necessarily know all the specifics and that this was going on such a detailed level, but they were concerned that there would be an alternate slate of electors presented. And so that is why, as you'll recall, John, Mike Pence released this really detailed statement before he certified the election, was part of that rule on January 6th, laying out what he can accept, and that the certificate from the electors has to be authorized by an authority of the state. That was intentional because of concern of something like this playing out.
Yeah, and now there will be questions, and already are in a couple of states, if this constitutes some activity of fraud, which I know will be investigated. Pamela Brown, thank you very much. And of course, we're all going to be watching your show this weekend.
Thank you.
And we're learning new details about what Donald Trump was doing ahead of the January 6th insurrection. According to former White House press secretary and communications director Stephanie Grisham, she told the January 6th committee that Trump held off-the-books meetings in the White House residence in the days before the insurrection. We should say that was part of a report in The Guardian. And joining me now is Stephanie Grisham. She also served as Chief of Staff to former First Lady Melania Trump. Stephanie, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for being back here with us. And I want to start with this Guardian headline that talks about what you told the January 6th committee. I know you can't specifically speak to that, but let's talk about the reporting that's now public. Secret meetings held in the White House ahead of January 6th.
Yes. So, I didn't participate in the Guardian reporting at all, but, it was pretty accurate. I would say that in my role as Chief of Staff, just kind of for background for you guys and for your viewers, I was always told about any meetings that were going to happen in the residence, mostly so that I could, give Mrs. Trump a heads up that there would be people in her home. Now, when Mark Meadows started, that information flow to me stopped, but other people, such as the usher in the residence, he would let me know that, there's going to be meetings up there. I didn't always know who the participants were, and sometimes even then I wouldn't be told about meetings, and then Mrs. Trump would let me know that a meeting happened because maybe she wasn't happy that, again, people were in her home without her knowledge. So the Guardian reporting is accurate. There were meetings taking place up there. I don't have visibility into what was discussed and all of the people who were there, but I can say that, as well as the legal team that was working on all of the bonkers little plans that you were actually talking about right before this segment with Pam.
So who else would know about these meetings? Who would know who was in these meetings aside from the participants themselves?
Well, see, that was the beauty and also the downfall of having meetings in the residence like that. And the president, the former president, did that often. He did that quite a bit because there was a lot of paranoia about leaks in the White House, and so he would just have people up to the residence. So as you just asked, it would have been the people who were there, people in the usher's office who may have waved them in, which means getting their security information in so that Secret Service could let them in. Certainly Mark Meadows, Chief of Staff, and maybe a body man the president was on that day.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
A very, very small circle is all I was going to say. And then, of course, Mrs. Trump, who was up in the residence, too. She may or may not have been sitting in on, she was known for popping into meetings, so she probably knew what was going on as well.
The committee has also obtained documents, and there are suggestions that perhaps some of this information could be in White House documents that perhaps have already been turned over to the committee. Would these secret meetings be part of that? And would the president's potential plans to go with rioters down from the White House to the Capitol after his speech be part of those documents?
So, as I talked to the committee, I gave them kind of a roadmap of just how things work. And I don't want to get too in the weeds because it's a lot and it can be very boring. But, yeah, there could be, there's something called a line by line, and that documents every movement the president is going to make. So potentially it could say, the president will conclude his remarks, and then it could say he may walk down, to the Capitol with people. It may say that, it may not. So there's definitely documents that could kind of have all the different options of what he may or may not do. That's what the advanced teams are supposed to do, is anticipate everything and let Secret Service know. So I would say those documents hopefully would have a little bit of help. And then any kind of logs of who was waved in that day, who was waved up to the residence, that should be somewhere. So I was really happy to see, hoping that some of those are in there and this can be settled once and for all.
So speaking of people who may have been waved up to the residence that day, the committee has sent a letter to Ivanka Trump asking for her voluntary cooperation. Do you think they're going to get it? And what further steps may they need to take to get information from former President Trump's daughter?
I can't telegraph what Ivanka's going to do. I hope that she will go. To me, if there's nothing to hide, I'm not sure why any of these people, won't just go and talk proudly about what happened that day, right? If they've got nothing to hide and nothing bad happened, then just go, sit down, tell the truth, and leave. I don't think that probably she will, just like so many others have refused to do it. I do think transparency here would make things so much easier, and the fact that they're not actually think, what do you have to hide? The statement she put out was a little bit murky in terms of, what she said that day, but not saying she would go and testify. I think this is just another example, though, of how everyone around him was talking to one another or to people outside, such as Sean Hannity. knowing that what was going on was wrong, and yet nobody would just speak up enough to make it stop, and then nobody will speak up now to say, hey, this was wrong. We were telling him this is wrong. They're all still, circling the wagons around him, and it's very much the emperor has no clothing.